good to have 4 Seasons on your side.
I'm Matt,
I'm Mike.
and we're here today to talk a little bit about pest exclusions. Now, exclusions are a big deal when it comes to controlling many pests.
Absolutely. In some cases, it's the only surefire way to stop them completely. Take, for instance, bats, squirrels, raccoons, other wildlife. These animals can't be controlled with pesticides alone, so other measures have to be taken.
Yeah, and that's where preventing them from entering the structure becomes a priority. But exclusions aren't just for wildlife.
Absolutely not. Exclusions will work for any pest that enters the home from outside, which brings up a good question.
Okay.
Which pests are we going to cover in this segment?
What about pests that can enter through the attic and through the windows?
So wasps, bees, ants, mice, stink bugs, lady beetles, spiders, pretty much anything smaller than a mouse.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, if we've got a 3/8 of an inch gap, especially or less, I think that's where we're going to be at. We're going to see that around windows. So I'd say that would pretty much cover it. But we want to discuss a specific type of exclusion, and we do have some footage from an exclusion we did recently for mice.
So you're referring to the stone-colored home we did an exclusion on the attic in Corbin.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the one. But I think we should only cover the attic portion in this segment, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about the windows, but specifically the attic.
Okay, so let's begin with what does an exclusion include?
Well, for starters, an exclusion provides a long-term effective control of certain pests which can enter a structure, and in this case, specifically into the attic or through the windows or the trim around the windows. For most people, the attic is part of the home they never go into. And many people never even see or rarely see the attic, so lots can go on in an attic and the homeowner never be aware of it.
And that's not only creepy, but it's quite dangerous. Several diseases and illnesses can be carried and caused by rodents. When they leave behind their feces and urine, it only makes matters worse. But if that's not enough, structure fires are often attributed to rodents, and it only takes one to cause a fire.
Yeah, so stopping the problem before it starts is really the best plan, and that's precisely what an exclusion is designed to do. So we're going to target entry points, cracks, voids, crevices, holes, and more, and we're either going to fix those, seal them, or somehow we're going to modify those areas and exclude any pests from entering in those areas, right? So let's talk a minute, though, about why the pests are entering the structure in the first place.
Yeah, well, 3 main reasons: food, water, shelter. Where these 3 things are present, or even one of these 3 things are present, pests will be present as well. That is, if they can gain access. So this is where an exclusion really goes to work for you. We inspect for the entry points which pests would use to access the 3 things necessary for their survival.
Right, and these hot spots and entry points are closed up to stop that entry.
Correct. So we inspect the property, identify the entry points and hot spots, and then seal those areas. But we don't stop there. Often exclusions go well beyond gaps, cracks, and holes. Many times it's other building deficiencies like torn or missing window screens, broken vents or vent pipes, damaged or missing weather stripping, damaged or missing door sweeps, decayed, rotten, or damaged wood siding and trim, chimneys in bad repair or missing caps, and the list goes on and on.
We go even further than that, though, because we look for the reasons pests are entering and try to eliminate those problems or make recommendations for the homeowner to eliminate those problems. And these problems vary, but just to name a few, we have open pet food or free choice pet food, which is available at all times, and this can draw in many pests, ants, mice, rats, and more. Pet feces in lawns, especially when large dogs are involved. And the whole idea behind this is many people feed a corn-based dog food, and as gross as it may sound, when these large dogs drop their feces in the lawns, small portions of undigested hard corn are still left, and as this dries up, mice will come and feed from that feces. Gutters and downspouts, when those are not working properly, that creates problems. Lawns not being regularly mowed, or weed eating not being performed properly, when doors are left open or windows without screens, and there's just so many, we can't mention them all, but at the end of the day, we're going beyond just making repairs. We're also going to make recommendations to correct deficiencies that may be going on around the home or the property as well.
Right. but we look for all the above.
Absolutely. Yeah, we look for all of them. Absolutely.
So back to the attics.
Mm-hmm.
Our method on attics will vary depending on the structure, but there are target areas which we look for and seal up on most attic exclusions.
Right.
Soffit, that's a big deal. Sometimes the soffit's too short or it's been knocked down. This can let birds, bats, mice, raccoons, rats, wasps, bees, all sorts of pests.
Absolutely, and another one's trim at the soffit level. So where the soffit meets, especially on brick and stone and masonry sided houses where the soffit meets the structure, generally there's a trim piece, 3, 4 to 6 inches, and this sits against the siding. And because a lot of masonry is uneven, oftentimes we have large gaps and cracks. Those can be, we've seen as much as an inch, inch and a quarter, as crazy as that sounds, and down as small as just a few 1/16ths of an inch. But if we get up near a quarter of an inch, we've got an issue. We could get lots of pests, insect pests behind it, but now we have the ability for mice and rats and squirrels to maybe chew and enlarge that hole. So the bigger gaps and cracks that we would find behind soffit trim, up to a 1/2 inch and an inch and above, that's going to let just about any kind of pest in smaller than a squirrel.
Sure, many times roofing is another issue. Sometimes it's because a metal roof has been installed and no closures have been used. This allows pests like birds, bats, mice, and insects to enter at the raised rib areas or where any trim or ridge cap is used. These have to have closures installed, and sometimes it's a big job.
Well, in other areas around the roof include dormers or other penetrations that come through the roof. Because essentially anytime a roof has a penetration present, there's always room for error. And if you have error, then probably you're going to have some gaps and cracks. So soffit, for instance, from dormers where the soffit from the dormer meets the roof line, we often see that that's left loose, and maybe there's a gap or a crack, especially if the home has been re-roofed. The roofers have to tear the roof out from underneath and behind that soffit, and often that soffit don't get placed back against the roof and sealed back like it should be. So then you end up with a gap, a crack, or maybe even just a large hole. So if it's left loose, these large gaps are going to be present where the soffit and the dormer meet the roof line of the home. And just like that, you got pest entry.
Just like that last wildlife call we took where the raccoon was getting in the attic, through the dormer, and the soffit was left loose. And we went and we caught 2 pups. Then we later went back and recaptured Mom.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, we actually have that exclusion on the board.
And those 2 pups were relocated. The mother didn't make it, but the 2 pups were relocated to somebody that would actually bottle feed them and raise them, and they're going to be in a nice home. So yeah, maybe when we go do that exclusion for that job, maybe we can video that one if we think about it.
We can try. But usually we get on a job and our hands are full. We can't hold a camera and do the job. It's hard to perform a job when you're trying to videotape too, and you have a rabid coon or crazy squirrel or anything for that matter. It's taking up.
Yeah, maybe we just need a film crew.
Maybe.
So attic exclusions revolve primarily around the soffit areas, roof penetrations, roofing and trim, chimneys, and a few other areas. And we move down to the windows, especially on masonry homes. We have gaps around the windows as well. These are all areas where pests can easily enter the structure and cause all sorts of problems within the structure, and the occupants of the structure maybe never even know it, and it is going to cause problems with the occupants of the structure too, quite possibly. Bats, birds, mice, rats, squirrels, raccoons, wasps, bees, Asian lady beetles, stink bugs, and just so many more pests that we don't have time to mention can get into these areas, and many of them can become a serious problem and even potentially life-threatening.
Yeah, 9 times out of 10, you don't even know they're there until you start hearing the noises after they've either populated or caused some damage in your attic.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've took 5 in the last week where there's noises coming from the attic. But that's why we perform exclusions. That's why we offer these exclusions to our customers. There's no reason you, the customer, should have to live with this or these pests. As we always say, it's okay to live among pests, but you don't have to live with them. We don't want our customers living with pests.
Well, that's right. And with 4 Seasons Pest Solutions on their side, they won't have to.
That's our motto. We believe it, we mean it. We believe the quality of life without pests can be achieved, and we provide it every day. In fact, we have 4 exclusion jobs in the queue right now, just for this week.
Right.
one for bats, one for raccoons, one for snakes, and one for mice.
Yeah, and the benefit of exclusion is that we're preventing these animals and these insects from ever becoming pests inside your home to begin with. So attic exclusions not only prevent pests, but potentially prevent life-threatening issues that can come along with some pests. So for instance, both raccoons and bats carry and transmit rabies. So having either one of those in your home is potentially life-threatening. And if they're in your attic, maybe we understand many people don't realize they're there, and sometimes it could be difficult for them to get into the home, and hopefully that's the case. I mean, we want it to be difficult for them to get into the home. But let's say that you've got bats or raccoons in your attic, you don't realize it, you have to go up into your attic, or you hire a contractor to go up into your attic. Now you've got a rabid bat, or you've got a rabid raccoon, or at least a raccoon or a bat that's carrying the rabies virus. Somebody gets bit, now we've got a serious issue. You know, but let's say that you never get bitten. Let's say you never get scratched, and rabies is completely and totally out of the picture. That still doesn't solve the problem, because both bat guana and rodent, especially lots of rodent feces, carry several diseases and illnesses that can become airborne. So the threat is real, and attic exclusions are extremely important and very beneficial.
Yeah. And quality of life, I mean, I'm gonna touch back on that a minute. The quality of life, it is very difficult to get a service technician or any kind of company to go up and say your cable goes out and it's ran through your attic. That technician will not go in that attic. I mean, we've seen it.
Right,
They
absolutely.
will not step foot in that attic if there's, rats, mice, bats, a coon, and I can't blame them.
No,
I mean,
absolutely
that's not what they signed up for. We do. So you don't have to, and they don't have to deal with it.
Well, okay, so many customers may be wondering just what pests an attic exclusion might cover. Now, we've named several, and we're going to include those as well, but let's just recap on this and add several more to the equation here.
Yeah, so bats, birds, mice, rats, raccoons, lizards, snakes, squirrels, flying squirrels, wasps,
Hornets, bees, spiders, Asian lady beetles,
cat, stray cat.
Yeah, ants and cluster flies. Yeah. And there's more. That's not all of the pests that can access an attic. Those are just the ones that are most commonly dealt with. Pests are pretty good at squeezing through much smaller areas than most people realize. And these pests that you just mentioned and that we talked about, these can easily gain access to a home through areas which are above the line of sight, especially tops of windows, tops of doors, sides of windows, and anything above that roof line. Once you get above the soffit area, most people don't see it. It's out of sight, it's out of mind. You step back away from the home, maybe you can see it, but for the most part, we go into homes all the time that every night bats are flying out of the gable vents and nobody's known it. And we get into the attic and these bats have been there for a long time. So, all of the areas that we've mentioned and all of the areas that are above the homeowner's line of sight and outside the homeowner's line of vision are areas where pests can enter the home if there's gaps and cracks. So if you're unsure if you need a pest exclusion, just give us a call. We can come out, do an evaluation. We can let you know very quickly whether or not an exclusion is in your best interest.
And once we've completed our inspection, we'll bring the information to you. We'll show you the entry points, high traffic areas, voids, anything we find during that inspection or performing that inspection.
So just give us a call. If you have critters in your attic, if you think you might have critters in your attic, or if you just want to make sure that you never have critters in your attic, we can help you keep the peace in the home, have a pest-free quality of life, and make your life just a little bit less stressful.
Yeah, so give us a call, shoot us an email, stop by our office. We're here to help. We want to help.
So you can reach us locally at 606-677-2437. Log on to our website at www.myfsps, like Four Seasons Pest Solutions.com. Check out our blog, our vlog. You can find all of our phone numbers for different areas of Kentucky and Tennessee right there on our website. We look forward to hearing from you. And remember, it's okay to live among pests,
but you don't have to live with them.
Any pest, any season, we're the solution.